5 years, but now I live in Fairbanks for about a year.
And what do you do for a living?
I work for the government. Yes, sir.
And I'm going to turn your attention to a couple of exhibits. But first of all, are you military now, or?
No, sir. I was military. I retired last year, and I'm a contractor a GS employee for the government.
And at some point in your military career, were you stationed in Fort Knox, Kentucky?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember the years or not?
Not off the top of my head, sir. I can think about it if you give me a second.
No, I mean,
Okay.
Was it a long time ago?
A few years ago. Yes, sir.
All right. And were you active military at that time?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to turn your attention to two exhibits. I'm going to show your mic briefly. Exhibit number 126, which is a single piece of paper. The first words on it are Department of Justice. And then exhibit number 1, which is a firearm that is locked up and inoperable at this time. So we need not worry about safety, because that's been covered already with the locking mechanism in the windows. But I'm going to go back to my microphone, then I'll ask you some questions about those two exhibits.
Yes, sir.
So going back to when you were in Fort Knox, did you buy a 9mm Springfield pistol?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you remember where you bought it?
At the PX, the Post Exchange.
So looking at State's exhibit number 126, I don't know if you ever seen one of those before?
I don't believe so, sir.
All right. That's a ATF firearms trace, basically, and it has the purchaser information, and you see your name on that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I think it had your address back then, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? Is that information correct also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it also had a description of the pistol. Now, I imagine you wouldn't remember the serial number off the top of your head as you sit here today, right?
Correct, sir.
Okay. And then it has the seller information. Remind me, what does it have for the seller information on there?
The dealer information, sir, is listed as Fort Knox Main Exchange.
And what is the Fort Knox Main Exchange? Can you tell us?
That's the PX, sir. Yes, sir.
On base?
Yes,
over
sir.
there? Okay. Now, turning your attention to exhibit number 1, State's exhibit number 1, that, can you tell us what that is?
It's an XDM 9mm pistol, sir.
And does it appear to be the same type of pistol that you had bought?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And obviously we're going to use the trace to match up the serial number. But looking at the pistol, can you find the serial number on exhibit number 1?
Yes,
I don't recall which side it's on.
I have it, sir.
Okay. Can you just do a quick comparison from the paperwork where it shows that you were the purchaser, the serial number? Do we have a match there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So how long did you have that particular pistol?
I would probably 6 or 7 years, sir.
And turning your attention, obviously you eventually got a phone call from the Alaska State Troopers about the pistol, correct?
Yes, sir.
And was that in December of 2016?
Yes, sir.
And why were they calling you?
Essentially, they had said that the pistol was recovered and used in a crime.
Now, we know already that it was recovered in Meadow Lakes, Alaska, which is the Wasilla area. Now, were you there in November, December of 2016?
No, sir.
Right. And are you familiar, so the jury now knows through other witness testimony that it was recovered from the home of Alana Peterson, and the people that lived there were Clive Seal, Alana Peterson, Devin Peterson. Are you familiar with any of those people that lived at that home where the firearm was recovered?
No, sir.
Did you visit the valley frequently or not?
No, sir. No.
So when, did you, going back before the troopers contacted you, did you become aware that this pistol was missing?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell us the circumstances of when you first became aware that you could not locate your pistol?
It was, I want to say it was sometime in the mid to end of October, and just we couldn't find it. I had a hunting trip in September. I had the pistol with me there, and I assumed that it just got mixed up with some hunting gear and just was misplaced in a tough box or something.
Okay. And when you went on the hunting trip, was it more than one person going on the hunting trip?
Yes, sir.
So you figured it was possible that it got put in somebody else's bag or whatnot?
Yes, sir.
All right. And were you making efforts to find the pistol?
Yes, sir.
But obviously you didn't find it because the troopers found it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I want to run some names by you to see whether you recognize any people as having been in your home or friends of friends, okay? So let me run some names by you. Eric Almendinger, does that name ring a bell?
Only from this trial, sir.
Dominic Johnson?
Yes, sir.
No. Bradley Renfro?
No, sir.
Austin Barrett?
No, sir.
Devin Peterson, I already asked you about before.
No, sir.
Devin Peterson. Okay. How about David Evans? Does that name ring a bell to you?
No, sir.
How about Garrett Canada?
That name rings a bell, yes, sir.
How does the name Garrett Canada ring a bell to you?
He was a friend of my daughter's.
And during that time, how old was your daughter?
15, I believe, sir.
What's
16.
her name?
Kimberly.
Kimberly. And had Mr. Canada been to your house before?
Yes, sir.
And can you give us had he been to your house before the pistol became missing? Before the hunting trip, for example, had he been to your house?
I'm not sure the timeline on it, sir. I would assume school August timeframe, so probably sometime in the August-September window, but I don't remember exactly, no, sir.
So you don't remember whether he had been to your house before or after the hunting trip? I'm using the hunting trip. kind of
Yes,
as-
sir. No, I don't remember specifically.
All right. And you say he was a friend of your daughter's? And in other words, did he go to school with your daughter?
I believe so, yes, sir.
And did you meet Garrett Canada in person?
I believe I did.
All
yes,
right.
sir.
And where did you usually keep the pistol? You know, aside from the hunting trip when you took it with you, where did you usually keep it?
We have safe, sir.
One safe?
Yes, sir.
And who had the combination to the safe?
It was a key lock safe, sir, and the door kind of swung to where it looked like it was locked at all times. But sometimes it may not have been locked.
All right. And okay. And you, of course, you don't remember whether you put it in the safe after the hunting trip or
Correct,
not.
sir. Yeah, I thought that I had, but I couldn't remember for sure.
And is it possible that you have other guns in the safe?
Yes, sir.
I mean, is it an actual gun safe, like a tall?
Yes, sir.
tall one? All right. And is it possible that sometimes the safe was left open?
Yes, sir.
And did you have any further information about how the gun got to Palmer?
No,
Palmer Wasilla area.
No, sir, other than that it was missing and either it was lost on the trip or taken from the home.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any cross-examination?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Just one question. Do you recall learning anything about Garrett Canada, either through having met him or through your daughter, his background or anything at all about his history?
Not his history, sir. I heard that he had passed, but I hadn't heard anything else.
I mean, at the time of, that's since all of this has happened.
Correct, yes,
of
sir.
course. And was that, you learned that through the news?
Correct, yes, sir.
And his cause of death was?
I don't know. I just know that he was found.
climbing accident?
Oh, yes, sir.
In
Yep.
Washington State?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But you don't recall knowing anything otherwise about him?
Nothing specifically, no,
All
sir.
right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
May we direct?
Nothing, Judge.
All right, thank you, sir. And he can be released. Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
So you're released from your subpoena.
Thank you, sir.
Can you ask Mr. Pratt to come in? Certainly, thank you. Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in the case now before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. And for the record, would you please state your full name and spell first and last?
My name is Kyle Aaron Pratt, Kyle Pratt.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Calhoun.
Thank you. Good morning. Mr. Pratt, can you tell the jury what part of the state you live in?
I live in Palmer, Alaska.
And how long have you lived there?
Close to 7 years.
What do you do for a living?
I am a longshoreman down at the Port of Anchorage.
And what street do you live on?
I live on Helen Drive in Palmer.
And are you familiar with the property belonging to Rodney Almendinger?
I am. It's next door to my home.
And do you share a property line with the Almendingers?
I do.
How long have the two of you been neighbors?
Since I moved in close to 7 years ago.
Now, turning your attention to the Almendingers, how many people, and I'm going, as you know, and be asking you about November of 2016. How many people lived in the Almendinger home in November of 2016?
I believe up to 4. I believe Rodney and Rodney's mother, and I believe 2 boys.
And Rodney's mother, Myler, or did you not know her name?
I had only met her one time.
And does Rodney Almendinger still live in that house?
Yes.
And like, how big is your property?
It is close to an acre.
How big is the Almendinger property?
I believe it's about the same, close to an acre.
And are the properties, do they have trees or brush, or is it all flat? And
It's all pretty flat. There's some trees that separate our property.
now, I'm going to turn your attention back to 2016, and I believe it was November 14th of 2016. Do you remember being outside in the morning cutting firewood?
I do.
And was there anything unusual that you perceived, either saw or smelled or heard on that morning?
There was a smell of smoke, and like it was a burning smell of plastic, and like a heavy smell of cleaning or just chemical smells.
Okay.
So if it was the plastic and that I was only smelling, that's about what I had.
You're talking about two different smells, the burning of a plastic type smell, and then is the cleaning smell a separate smell?
It was both mixed. It was a heavy, pungent smell in the air that morning. It was cold. It kind of lingered.
Okay. And of course, you were cutting wood, right? So your chainsaw is emitting some odor, right?
Yes, some
Yeah.
exhaust, yes.
And were you able to distinguish those other two smells from the odor of the chainsaw?
I noticed the smell before I started my chainsaw.
Okay. How long were you out there, do you know?
I do not
Okay.
remember. I was out there for a good while cutting firewood.
Yeah, and do you know the area of Kangaroo Court, the street Kangaroo Court?
Yes, I do.
Where is that located in relation to your property?
Further up Helen Drive, I'd say to the north.
All right, and did you do anything about it, or that smell, you just noticed it and took a mental note of it?
I noticed it and it was alarming enough. I looked up at my chimney to make sure I didn't have a chimney fire of any kind, and I noticed that the smoke that I was seeing coming out of my chimney was looking like it was drifting to the southwest.
Okay. All right, so the wind was blowing from the northeast, therefore?
Yes, but it wasn't really windy. It was kind of cold and calm. It was just the direction that the smoke was traveling.
Now, turning your attention to the night before, were you outside on your property the night before November? And this would be the evening of November 13th.
Correct. Yes, I was outside.
What were you doing outside?
I have a steam house in my backyard. I was taking a steam.
Do you remember about what time that was or not that you were taking a steam?
I was out there between 6 and 8, somewhere around there.
In that time window?
in the evening,
And
yeah.
was it dark by then?
Yes.
And did you overhear any conversations that evening? Either when you were in the steam or when you got out of the steam?
When I was out of the steam, after my steam, I was walking up to the back door of my garage and heard a conversation next door.
Were you able to make out the words?
Not much. I had heard Rodney outside, and all I heard was you're gonna need to call this boy's mom or talk to this boy's mom. That's all I had heard.
All right. Was it in a loud tone of voice or was it in a conversational tone of voice? What can you tell us about that?
A conversational tone of voice. He's got a loud voice as it is. Very distinct. You know when it's him talking.
All right. And could you see who he was talking to, or could you see him?
I could see him in underneath the porch light in the entry of their home, and I couldn't see who he was talking to, but I could see two other individuals standing there in the dark.
Can you make out from their appearance whether they were male or female, old or young, big or small, any of those kind of things?
They looked like teenage boys. They're in the shadow. I mean, just the way that I kind of caught out of the glimpse of my eye that they were just dressed like boys, and they weren't full-grown men, I could tell.
All right. Did you hear the other two respond in any way to Rodney Allmendinger?
No.
No. And you had heard Rodney Allmendinger's voice before, right?
Yes.
Okay. Was the Allmendinger household a loud household on occasion?
Yes.
Mostly due to Rodney's voice or other people's voices?
Mostly Rodney's. The boys would be outside every now and again, traveling back and forth from the back door to the trailer. I could hear a little conversation from them, but just,
And when you're talking about the boys, Eric Almeninger, is that one of them?
I only believe I've seen him 1 or 2 times traveling back and forth there.
Between where?
The front, or the back door and the front door of the trailer. There's a couple different doors to the home.
Oh, you're talking the camper trailer?
Yeah.
Alright. Is the camper trailer, was that within view of your house?
Yes.
And where did it sit on the Almeninger property? What does the Almeninger property look like?
It sits between my property line and their home, and it's
The camper trailer?
correct.
All right. And was it used, was it there sometimes and gone at other times?
Yes, it was usually always there during the winter time. I wouldn't know where it went during the summertime.
But during this time period, we're talking about November 13th and 14th, was the trailer camper there on the property?
Yes.
And does your property face the backside of the Almeninger property?
It's just side to side.
Side to side?
Yeah.
Give me a moment here to fire up the equipment. We haven't used the computer yet this morning, so. Well, I'm not gonna try to I don't think I have the ability to rotate this photo the way it's been put into the computer, but let me turn your attention to State's Exhibit number 72. Well, I'll just have to look a little bit sideways at it. Do you recognize State's Exhibit number 72?
I do.
Okay, can you tell us what that is?
That is the home next door to my house. From the driveway
Oh,
side.
and you know what, you're gonna have to grab the mic because it's not picking you up.
Sorry.
This is what we've been using as the pointer, if you need it, just to tell people where things are.
This is the view of the home next door to my house, the Almendingers, the view from Esty.
And when you said that Rodney Almeninger was standing outside when you overheard him say, what did he say again? You're gonna have to talk to the boy's mother, is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay. Where was he standing someplace where you can point to in that photograph or not?
There's a carport or some kind of, there's the entry into the home is just back between the garage and the home here. And it's this covered awning extends over it.
And is that where he was standing?
Yes, that's where the door, the entry into the home is.
All right. And where were the other two people standing that he was talking to?
It's actually on the back side of the garage. It's on the back side of the garage.
Okay.
you can walk through here to the other side of the home there, property.
Move to admit number 72.
So admitted, number 72. Photo of the Almonding front.
I was worried about that thing that popped up in the corner there. I don't know what that meant. But, let's try this again. I'm just going to scroll down to the next one. Okay, let's talk about state's proposed exhibit number 73. Can you tell us what's depicted there?
This is the south side of the home. This is an entry down into the basement of the home.
And where those two people were standing, is that area visible in this photograph or not?
No, it is not.
No, okay. Which side of the house would it have been at?
Just opposite from where we are at here. It's to the left and back alongside the house over here.
All right. And is this the part of the house that your property faces?
No, it is not.
No, you face the side of the house?
Yes, the left side of the home.
All right, thank you. Move to admit number 73.
So admitted.
State's exhibit number 74. And sorry for the positioning, that's the way the paralegal scanned it in. But do you recognize that?
This is a new garage that they just built a few years ago. I don't have this view from my house. I don't see this.
But that building is on their property.
Yes.
Move to admit number 74.
No objection.
So admitted.
And state's proposed exhibit number 76. Can you tell us what that is?
That is the trailer that just sits next to our property line.
And is that where the trailer was usually located? In that area? I know it's not a full shot of the property, but you see that the shed. Do you recognize that shed on the property too?
Yes, I do.
And that's different from the garage that is roughly the same color, right? The shed is a separate building.
That is correct.
Okay. And so back to my question, did the camper usually sit in this spot?
Yes, it does.
And is that where you remember it being on November 13th and November 14th of 2016?
Yes, I do.
I'd move for the admission of number 76.
No objection.
So admitted.
All right, thank you. If you can resume your seat, please. Mr. Pratt, on the evening of November 13th, either before or after you heard Rodney Elmendinger say that to the two individuals there, did you hear anything else that was unusual or notice anything else that was unusual? Or have we covered pretty much everything that you heard or saw?
On the evening of the 13th.
Right, I'm not suggesting that there is something else. I'm just making sure that before we release you to go back to the Matsu, that we have everything covered. Is anything else unusual that you observed on the 13th or the 14th?
There's nothing on the 13th or the 14th.
That you heard or saw, other than Rodney making that statement on the 13th, right?
Correct.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, cross-examination.
Morning, Mr. Pratt.
Good morning.
I just have a couple of questions for you. In your testimony, you testified that you detected in smoke in the air the odor of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
You today also testified you thought you smelled the odor of cleaning supplies.
It was a heavy smell of like chemicals.
And was that part of the smoke or separate?
It just smelled different, a stronger smell of what couldn't have been just plastic. It just, I've done a lot of burning out in villages working, and we've had to burn a lot of materials, and it just had a heavier smell than just burning plastic like, or either carpet.
So you're saying it could be part of the components of the carpet? Or are you distinguishing that odor from smoke itself?
I was distinguishing it from the smoke itself. It wasn't right. It was a stronger smell in the air.
Do you recall ever reporting that before this morning to the troopers or in prior testimony?
I do not remember.
Do you have an opportunity to be refreshed regarding the evidence by any agents of the state before today?
No.
Or what your testimony would consist of?
No, sir.
I'm a little confused because you never mentioned detecting the odor of cleaning chemicals before today.
Actually, he did.
Am I mistaken?
It was in previous proceeding.
You need a second to review the record?
I withdraw that. I'm mistaken. You did testify at the proceeding. One more question. I think you testified you didn't recognize the name of any of the boys other than Eric. Did you know?
No, I didn't know any of the boys.
But you've seen the boys, call them the boys, occasionally in and out between the back of the house and the trailer.
Yes.
Did you ever see this young man?
No.
Ever heard his name? Bradley Renfro outside of the case?
I do not know his name. I've never,
Never seen him before?
no.
So, just to be clear, you don't recall ever seeing, aside from his name, this young man on Allendinger's property that night or any other time?
I have never seen that.
Thank you.
Never seen him.
Redirect.
No, thank you.
Okay, sir, you can step down.
And can Mr. Pratt be excused,
I
Judge?
believe so.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in the case now before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. And for the record, would you please state your full name and spell first and last?
My name is Kirk, K-I-R-K, Wilcoxon, W-I-L-C-O-X-S-O-N.
Thank you.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Mr. Calicha.
Thank you, Judge. And we decided to take Mr. Wilcoxon first because his testimony is shorter than Mr. Jorgensen's, and it might work out better with the timing.
Okay.
But
For the jury's information, we're going to break 5 or 10 minutes or so before 10. Then we are going to be setting up a review, as I mentioned last week, of the trailer, which will probably be about 10:30, okay? All right, go ahead, Mr. Calicha.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Can you tell the jury where you work, please?
I work at the Alaska State Crime Lab.
And is that in Anchorage?
It is located in Anchorage.
How long have you worked there?
I've been employed there since 2010.
And what do you do there specifically?
Currently, I am the physical section supervisor over firearms, latent prints, crime scene, and footwear. But I was previously employed as a latent print examiner.
All right. And what do you do as a supervisor right now?
Well, I oversee all of the physical comparative disciplines.
And I'm going to be turning your attention to work you did in 2016 relating to fingerprints. And you know what I'm talking about, correct?
Yes, sir.
You've had a chance to review your reports before you came to testify
I have.
today. When you said you worked in the fingerprints section, is that what you guys call it, or do you call it something else?
We call it the latent print unit.
The latent print unit. Tell us what people in that unit do. What are their responsibilities?
Basically, we process evidence that comes into the lab, related to an incident or crime, and we look for latent fingerprints, which are the fingerprints that are left on an item after someone touches it.
Okay. All right. And you were called upon to examine certain exhibits. Is that correct? In this case.
Yes, sir.
But let me ask you first briefly about your background and your experience and your education when it comes to fingerprint work. So how long had you been doing the fingerprint work at the crime laboratory before 2016?
Well, I started at the Alaska State Crime Lab in 2010, but before that I was employed with the Texas Department of Public Safety in 2001, and then I moved to the Drug Enforcement Administration for a year before coming to Alaska. So all told, probably about 18 years looking at fingerprints.
All right. And how did you get started in the business?
I went to college and ended up with an anthropology degree, and I just got out and needed a job. So,
Okay.
kind of happenstance.
All right. And so first there was some on-the-job training, is that correct?
I actually started in 10-print records, basically just the full roll records and identification unit in Texas, and then I moved over to the lab, and there was about a 2-year on-the-job training with the Texas Department of Public Safety, and then I got certified in 2007 and have remained certified in latent print since.
Okay. And how many cases have you worked as far as fingerprint evidence?
All told, in the last 18 years, several thousand.
Now, and just for those who aren't that familiar with fingerprint comparison, we all know what fingerprints are, sort of, right? It's every finger has a different pattern on it, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Are there any two fingers that are exactly the same or not?
Not that we found, no.
All right. And I think we all know what known fingerprints are, like the ones that where you roll your fingerprint in the ink and they're put on a piece of paper. Is that still the way the known fingerprints are collected, or is it going electronic nowadays?
It's both, basically. You can still take knowns with ink and contrasting white fingerprint card, or you can scan them in on what's called a live scan machine and take them out electronically.
And is one better than the other, or not?
We end up just scanning the fingerprint card with the ink on it anyway, so they all become electronic in the end.
Okay, all right. And so what's the purpose of having the known fingerprint? Just knowing which prints are associated with which individual?
Right, the knowns are taken and you sign the card, and so basically those knowns are attributed to you at that time. So they are officially your record, and so if it comes to establishing your identity for licensing regulations, getting a job or something, a background check, those are all kept on file.
And I would move to qualify Mr. Wilcoxon as an expert in latent print examination and fingerprint comparison.
I just have a couple of questions. I'm not-
Go right ahead.
I'm gonna pose. Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
So the science of fingerprint examination, latent prints, has kind of changed over the years, right? the
In
sense
what
that-
way?
Well, in the sense that for many years it was the trained eye. Somebody's been trained in latent print analysis, identification, and now we have computers that are can also assist in that process?
The computer speeds up the searching, and has basically expanded the ability to search thousands and millions of records, where it would take the human hundreds of years to achieve the same feat. So in that respect, yeah, it has really improved our ability to search far and wide.
And so you have a known print, and I presume those are obtained through law enforcement from the suspects, anybody else that might have had, that they're aware of, might have had access to whatever you're examining?
Well, the records that are on file are not just law enforcement. I mean, basically, I'm on file, you're on file. Anybody who's applied for a handgun license is on file. So the state maintains a database of all these known cards, but it's not just things that are related to law enforcement purposes. I mean, there's licensing regulations and background check kind of stuff as well.
Sure, but I mean, in this case, where the known prints came from who?
I believe the knowns in this case were collected in person by one of our crime scene techs who went out and retrieved the knowns.
Okay, so the known prints are the latent prints that you're taking off physical evidence.
Well, latent is what we call the print that's left on an item, because latent means hidden, so you have to develop it. A known print is the opposite of a latent. So a known is where I'm there and I'm putting ink on your finger and I'm rolling it on a card and I'm making you sign the card and I'm witnessing those
Right.
prints. That's a known print.
So, but you don't know whose known prints were provided to you for matchups?
Oh, I can look and see.
What would it make sense? Would it make sense to you that it could include David Grunwald and anybody that may have been in that trailer that night?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And then, is that what they call an exemplar? Is there such a term used in latent print analysis, an exemplar sample, like, for example, in voice recognition?
Absolutely. Exemplar, it does refer to known prints, whether they be fingers, palms, feet. Any kind of known impression that is known to come from an individual can be referred to as an exemplar.
That's all I have, and no objection to qualifying
Yeah, so qualified.
as an expert.
Thank you. And before I get to this case, so I was gonna kind of get into what Mr. Provost was asking you about. So, people watching TV shows or reading books figure that there must be fingerprints left every time somebody touches an object. Is that true or false?
Well, on TV, it definitely looks that way, but it's actually quite, I think there's like a 30% chance that you'll actually leave a print on an item that you touch.
Okay, and what are the factors, what are the variables there?
Well, I'd categorize it in three different ways. You've got, if you don't want to leave an impression, the easiest way to do it is to do what I do in the lab, and that's put on gloves. So if you covered up the fingerprint, then you're not going to leave a print.
Mm-hmm.
Second is going to be environmental. So Alaska is fairly dry and cold. People don't sweat that much, especially during the winter. So if your hands are dry, think of your fingerprints as like rubber stamps. But without the ink, you're not going to leave a print because it's just a dry ink or a dry stamp. So the ink for us is going to be the sweats and the oils that we pick up from. There are no sebaceous glands on your hands, so all the oil that you pick up is going to be from your hair or some other contaminant. The latent print residue is about 98% water. So pretty much if it's not humid outside and you're not sweating, you're not going to transfer that print. Third category would be the substrate of the item itself. So if you've got something smooth, like a piece of glass or this wooden piece here that's laminated, you can leave a pretty good print on it. But if you've got something like sandpaper where it's textured, or the grip of a gun where it's designed so you can get a better grip or something like that, it's not going to leave a good print because the substrate, the surface of the item is not smooth.
And in this particular case, did you have a chance to exhibit some of the items recovered by the Alaska State Troopers?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I'm going to try to go chronologically. I'm going to turn your attention to December 7th, 2016, or roughly that time frame. And I'm also going to turn your attention to one of the exhibits we have here. as soon as I locate it. So I'm going to turn your attention to State's Exhibit number 2, which has already been admitted, and we'll leave that with you. It's obviously has some AST stickers on it and some laboratory stickers on it. That particular exhibit, did you examine it for fingerprints?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And tell us how you examined it.
Well, it's a shell casing. So basically, the first thing I would do is a visual with white light. Just put a flashlight on it at about a 45-degree angle to see if I can see any ridge detail on just by visually looking at it. And then I would put it in a superglue tank, which is basically we heat up superglue containing a chemical called cyanoacrylate, which basically, if you heat it up, it becomes an ester, it fumes. And so the fumes that are released from superglue react with water. Going back to that latent print residue where you've got 98% water, the superglue sticks to the print on the item, hardens it up, and then we go stick it, or I put maybe a dye stain so that it fluoresces, gives me a nice contrasty development of the print, put it under an alternate light source or a laser, it glows, and if I see one, I take a picture.
And were you able to find any latent prints on the shell?
On this one, no, I was
On the
not.
casing? Sometimes do you find partial prints?
Well, you can find,
I'm not talking about this exhibit in particular.
Just in general,
In general, right, right.
you can find bits and pieces. So, I mean, it's really rare. I mean, think of it kind of like, well, this is textured, so you're not going to leave a very good print on that. But if it was smooth, if I'm gripping something, I mean, if I leave a nice full roll print there, yeah, it's beautiful. But more often than not, I'm just going to leave a tip or a side or something, little bits and pieces of things. And how you handle things in real life is you're not just putting down your entire fingerprint on something, you're just touching it in a natural way. And those don't leave full impressions. So you get these little bits and pieces, and sometimes those are not, they don't have enough identifying points in them to actually use to identify to somebody.
And, but nonetheless, on this spent casing, you didn't find anything that could be matched up to any known prints? Right?
No, not that it was usable to identify to anybody, no.
And was that surprising to you or not?
No, not on spent shell casing. So, I mean, you gotta realize that this round of ammunition went through an incredible process and was fired out of a weapon. So you've got an explosive charge in the back, and then so that goes off, and then there's compression, all this heat and stuff, and then the projectile goes out the barrel, and then it's ejected out the side of the gun. So there's a very intense environment in there, and heat is not our friend when it comes to latent prints, because all that violence that's going on in there, that heat and pressure and all that can tend to blow away the impression if there was one actually on the shell case.
No, the jury found out through other witnesses that this casing was sitting outside from November 13th, 2016 to December 2nd, 2016. And also they found out through witness testimony that the casing was covered with snow, and the troopers had to use metal detectors to recover it. Being outside, an item being outside, and things such as snow/water, could that possibly affect the fingerprints?
The weather is not our friend in these things. If you left me outside for 6 months, I wouldn't be doing so well either. So if there was an impression there, you know, the cold, the dry, it's just, plus what it's been through coming out of the gun, it's very unlikely that a print would actually still be there.
Now, let's say you found a print on this spent casing, and you matched it up to somebody's fingerprint. What would that tell us?
It would tell us that at one point in time, that person had touched that round.
And does it narrow down the time frame at all, or is it just...
No, there's no way to age when that impression was actually laid on the item at all. You cannot age a print. It just means that sometime it happened, but not when.
Now I'm turning your attention to State's Exhibit number 1, and, we have some envelopes and the P number associated with the exhibit, and there is the exhibit minus the magazine. Let's cover the gun first. Did you also examine this Springfield 9mm pistol for prints?
Yeah, you can actually see the case number, or the item number, my initial, and the date are written on the weapon.
Okay. And with all witnesses, I mean, you could tell that that gun is in a safe condition, so, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we can handle it and you can display it to the jury. Turning your attention back to December of 2016, you verified you examined it. Were you able to find any latent fingerprints on that firearm?
I refer back to my, I've got copies of my notes in my report.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm on your report dated December 15th, and I'm at the tail end of paragraph 1, where it says results, conclusions, and opinions, so we're on the same page.
Okay. So according to my report, there were 3 latents recovered, 634.1, .2, and .3. Now, the fun bit with those, I don't see that. I think it's probably gone through firearms processing after I got done with it, because usually we've got stickers that show where the latents were. But according to my report, initially I thought maybe they were of value, so I did compare them, but I remember that later on I said that they were of no value because
And those are from the other pistol.
was that from
Right. That was
620?
that was from P16052634.
64. Oh, I see. Sorry.
So we're on,
You're on-
I should probably, let's predicate it, but what P number was associated
Oh, I
with
see.
the Springfield pistol?
So this is 160-52620, and no, I didn't recover any latents on this weapon.
Okay. And did you go through the same process as you described with the spent casing?
Yeah, it's basically the same process of visual examination, super glue, fuming, dye stain laser, and no latents recovered.
Okay. And anything about that pistol, anything about the areas of that pistol? Are some areas more conducive to latents being left, or others less conducive?
Well, this is one of the modern weapons that is made out of, looks like composite plastic, or there is some metal to it. But the gripping, I mean, the gun manufacturers know where you're going to grip the weapon. So they don't want it to slip. So they put textured surfaces here. Even the trigger's got a safety in there, so it's not all flat. You could theoretically recover latents from this, but in most of the areas where you're going to be touching, they have put textured areas so that you're not going to leave a real good print there, because they don't want your hand to slip when you've got it.
Okay. All right. And again, had you found some latent prints on there, and had you matched it up to somebody's known prints, what would that tell us?
It would mean that simply at some point in time, that person had touched that weapon.
Not necessarily on November 13th, 2016.
No, there'd be no way to actually date when that print was left.
And now I'm turning your attention to State's Exhibit number 3. And that is the Ruger pistol. So let's first tell us, do you recognize it? Why don't you pull it out and verify that it's in a safe condition?
Correct. The weapon is safe. Again, my initials, item number, and date are located on the side as I marked. And as I mentioned before, these are the actual stickers, the scales that we apply to where the latents were recovered on the weapon.
And so initially in December of 2016, Did you find some interesting things relating to this pistol or not initially?
Initially, there were 3 latents recovered from the slide here as marked by the stickers. They were bits and pieces, so I kept them. I tried to compare them, but was not able to identify them. Basically, I excluded them from matching, or stated that they didn't match the people that I was comparing, but later on, it's just like I was never going to be able to identify them just because there wasn't enough minutia, the little points that we compared, the ridge events in them to actually make an identification. So if we have a bad known, we can always request additional knowns, but you can't request a better latent. So we try to enhance it better, but this just wasn't getting an identifiable impression out of that latent.
All right. And when you're talking about comparing them, I'm going to turn your attention to your report dated January 18th, 2017. Did you eventually get the known finger and palm prints for Austin Barrett, Bradley Renfro, Dominic Johnson, Devin Peterson, and Eric Almeninger?
Yes, they were submitted with P numbers, and they were scanned in and used for comparison to the latents.
Yeah. And did you try to compare them to those bits and pieces you found on the Ruger, the 634.1 partial and the 634.2 partial?
I tried, but eventually just came to the conclusion that the latents were no value to be identified, so I
Okay.
basically reevaluated and determined that they were insufficient for identification.
All right. Now, going back to your December 15th report, I just want to make sure we're just excluding something. Now, you also looked at a Ruger 357 caliber Ruger revolver. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And that gun we've agreed that gun doesn't have anything to do with this case, other than it was found with the other 2 guns at a location in Meadow Lakes, Alaska. But nonetheless, you were able to get some one latent print off that one. Is that correct?
There was a latent recovered off of the 357 Ruger that was identified, yes.
Okay. And you later matched it up to one of the knowns that I referred to earlier?
I think at this time we had knowns for the individual that was identified.
Okay,
And
when
they
you
were-
did it in December, gotcha.
Yeah.
And who did you match up that latent print on the Ruger revolver to?
Latent print 648.1 was identified to the known left ring of Devin Lee Peterson.
Okay. And what does that mean, that you found Mr. Peterson's fingerprint on that revolver?
It means at some point in time, the gentleman had touched the weapon.
And you can't tell us what point in time?
Nope.
Now, there's one other thing I want to cover with you. There was some additional lab activity more recently as far as fingerprints. Is that correct?
As far as like the last report that I wrote was back in 17.
Yeah.
Is that the February 6th report you're referring to?
Well, there was some, what I'm going to want to cover with you is it's going to be known to the jury that the magazines for these 2 firearms were not sent to the lab initially, but they were later sent to the lab for various examinations at a later time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So let me show you those exhibits. Yeah, I can probably give you some room here. So the 2 exhibits I have here are State's Exhibit number 190, which is the magazine from the Ruger 40 caliber, and State's Exhibit number 191, which is the the magazine from the Springfield. And I'm gonna ask you some questions about those magazines. Did you or anybody else from the crime lab find any latent prints on those were you able to find any latent prints in those magazines?
I don't think we actually processed them for latent prints. Oh, hang on. Well, no, I didn't. It does look like there's a tag on there, so maybe one of the other examiners did process them.
Yeah, so maybe I was kind of going. Judge, when we're, in an effort not to have to call, and I know that I didn't run this by Mr. Wilcoxon, but in an effort not to have to call some other people, what I would propose, and I want to talk to, can I talk to Mr. Probst about one other thing? So Judge, what I would request is, I was just gonna ask for a 5-minute break, and we just, we are proposing covering some things with Mr. Wilcoxon that really wasn't on his radar, though it involves work that was done with people that are in his unit. And I think I feel it'll be a time-saving measure if maybe he can cover some of the territory.
The
But
problem is we're at 9:45, so he's probably gonna have to come back.
Well, I don't know if he was expecting to be out of here, in 20 minutes or so. I
He
think
can hang around till probably later this morning.
Sure.
and that'll give him an occasion to examine the reports
I
anyway.
think that's fair enough. So what we'll do is we'll recess now, and we'll start some additional instructions on the trailer view. For the record, I'm going to take what's called judicial notice. The court saw the existing trailer before, and I will state for the record the following things I noticed that have shifted since the original date of the incident. First of all, the shelf above the bunk that's in the far back of the trailer has collapsed. So that is covering the bunk that is in the back. The second thing I noticed that had changed, and these are just highlighted ones, there's some small things that shifted around, but also the table has turned over, and the benches where the individual sat around the table, the cushions are missing, so they have fallen over. So those are a few of the things. As I mentioned, the trailer sustained some shifting around of stuff quite a bit on the trip up here and during the crime lab's investigation of the trailer. So I'm going to show you a few photos that are already in evidence of what the trailer looked like at the time of closely after the time of the incident, okay? Do you have those, Mr.
Yes, I
Kalichek?
teed up, Judge, and I'll refer to the evidence items. These were photos admitted during Mrs. Nading's testimony. And I would just point out the jury should also consider that she testified that they had take all the stuff out of the trailer and then put it back in, and it wasn't really put in any particular manner or taken out in any kind of particular manner. But nonetheless, starting with State's Exhibit number 79, going to State's Exhibit number 80, shows some of the things the court was referring to. And of course, the jury is going to have these exhibits on paper. State's Exhibit number 81. State's Exhibit number 82. State's Exhibit number 83. State's Exhibit number 84. State's Exhibit number 85. State's Exhibit number 86. State's Exhibit number 87. And then the rest of them just focus in on what Mrs. Nading collected. So I think I was going to leave it at that, Judge.
I think that's fine. Is the defense okay with that? Did you have any comments you wanted to make?
Mr. Kalchek, could you go back to 80? So this is the view from the door towards the back of the trailer, right?
Yep.
And may I?
You
Well,
may.
are we I don't know if we're,
Well, I think it's just gonna highlight some things that were different, that's all.
no, I understand. The photos should speak for themselves as far as the jurors perceiving the differences between the photos and what they saw today. I'm not sure how much more elaboration is required as far as.
I'm not going to get into any kind of argument, Your Honor.
Just, I'll let you identify a few things, just so we have a clean record. Go ahead.
So this is where the table with the bench cushions that are gone. This is one side wall of it. This is the other side wall of it. You can see that the bunk, the main below here, is below this backing along that part of the bench. This up here was used as a shelf, but it's actually a bunk bed. It just wasn't being used as a bed, it was being used as storage. So this is a good depiction as far as any evidence you might find is who's there and where they were.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. All right. Okay, calling back your witness.
One last thing. It was one reenactment we don't have is lighting. Although we put a light in there for this purpose, this was it was pitch black outside, no lights on the inside, so it was like if the Sully Port lights were off and the lights that we put in there were not on.
Well, I would object to that. Unless Mr. Provost was there, I don't know how we can come to the conclusion that nobody had any kind of light at all, and that there's wires in there, and there could be.
Well, here's what we do know, okay? And this is what the court's gonna say, and take judicial notice. The lighting that was in there today was put in by the court so that the parties could see inside and wouldn't stumble. Whether there was lighting in there the night of the incident, that's up for the evidence to show. So we will just let it at that, leave it at that, so.
And I just, with that, Judge, I was gonna resume with some more questioning for Mr. Wilcoxon.
Go right ahead.
All right, let's cover the two items that you have there. State's Exhibit number 191, the magazine for the Springfield XDM 9mm pistol. Did you have a chance to examine that magazine?
Well, the evidence was processed, I've been reminded by another employee of mine, and so I didn't actually process the evidence, but I did look at, he recovered 2 latents from one from each magazine, and then they were not of value, so during my examination, they were insufficient for ID, so that's why I didn't recall.
Okay, but you did look at what he had come up with?
Yes, sir.
And were they scanned, were they electronic images?
They were photographed with a digital camera, and then they were uploaded, and then I retrieved them from my
And for the
examination.
Springfield in particular, what did he notice and what did you find not to be really testable?
Well, the latent recovered from, which one's the Springfield's at 300 or 299?
Without looking at that report, I don't recall which number the lab gave to it.
Okay,
Springfield's
I
the
believe
silver-
it's
the
this
silver
one. Yeah, so that would be 300.
Okay.
Okay.
So the Springfield or the 300,
And that's evidence number 1, right?
191?
191. What did?
You're talking about the latent recovered from?
Yeah, what was noticed?
The latent recovered from the Springfield magazine had substrate distortion. So which basically that means there's background interference from the metal on the magazine that's interrupting the pattern. So I couldn't see the points in the latent to make an identification.
Okay. How about the other one, 191, which was what, was that 299, the lab number on it?
No, that was the 300. The 299 is from, that's States Exhibit 190.
Right, that's what I'm on now, the Ruger, the black.
The latent on that one had smearing distortion. So basically, when you touch something and you drag your fingers across the substrate, it will just smear the print instead of leaving a single impression. It's smeared.
So did you make conclusions that neither of those were usable?
Both of them were insufficient for identification.
All right. The one thing I haven't covered with you is removal of latent fingerprints.
Mhm.
Can prints be wiped off or cleaned off, or a
True.
combination of both?
Yeah, so excessive handling. So if somebody found something on the ground and it's just a regular impression, impressions are very fragile by nature because it's just a single print left in sweat or oil. So if you come by and just wipe it off, that's why on TV you see them always wiping down the guns. That's exactly what they're doing, is destroying the prints.
And also, for example, if a gun is put, if a gun is put in a backpack or a briefcase and it's carried and it's rubbing against the material in whatever it's carried in, could that action possibly wipe off fingerprints too?
Even something as simple as evidence packaging. So when you put it in here, it's rubbing up against the plastic or the paper. It can rub off the latent. So that's why the first thing we do when we get to the lab is we super glue it. So it hardens it, so it's no longer destroyable in that fashion. But if you took a weapon and put it back in its holster, the rubbing of just putting it in the holster can destroy a print.
How about chemicals? Let's say somebody, we all use 409, for example. Spray something with 409 and then take a paper towel from the roll and wipe the item off. Could that take off fingerprints?
Chemicals are not even necessary. You can do it with just a tissue. But if, say, you had a tissue with bleach or some kind of 409 cleaner, it's just going to help. I mean, it's just going to wipe it all away.
Okay, so are there numerous ways to get fingerprints off an item if latent prints weren't originally contained on the item?
It's not that hard, yeah. It basically, any manner of touching it, you can wipe it, you can put it under water. I mean, anything, these things are very, very fragile. So any manner of touching it or wiping it, anything's going to destroy the print.
Now, how about subsequent handling? Let's say one person handles an item such as a gun, and then later another person handles it. Could that had that first person left some latent prints, could the subsequent handling have taken off those?
The actual calls for speculations.
Well, it's a,
Lay a foundation.
let's, hypothetical, let's say there is a print, like on this computer, let's say, I leave a print, but then somebody keeps touching the same area, could that possibly take the print off?
Absolutely. You can either lay a new print on top of it or smear the one that's existing. Excessive handling is going to destroy that original print every time.
Now, you say you supervise the firearms, right? Prints, firearms?
Firearms, footwear, crime scene, and latent prints.
And firearms, have you done firearms work in the past?
No, I'm strictly a latent print examiner by trade.
I'm not gonna ask you about the discipline, but I just wanna ask you in terms of people, we will likely have a stipulation as to what one person did. Deb Gillis is at the crime lab.
Currently the technical lead of the firearms unit.
And how long have you been at the crime lab?
Oh, something like 15 years or so.
And then, are there any other people in our section, in the firearms section, or not?
There was one other analyst there by the name of Nikki Roth.
And is that person newer?
Yeah, she just went through the training about 2 years ago.
Okay. And finally, as it goes to the reason for the stipulation, is Ms. Gillis currently out of the country,
She is out of the country yet.
in a distant place?
Fairly far away. She's in Mongolia right now.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, cross-examination.
Hello again.
Hello, sir.
So your tasks specifically had to do with the latent prints, examining the firearms, footwear, and any other latent prints they may have collected.
Well, I don't do footwear, no, sir.
But I thought I heard you say footwear.
I supervise the footwear program, but I don't actually compare them.
Okay. Do you review the reports of those that you supervise?
In the fingerprint discipline, and I do some administrative reviews, but not technical reviews of some of the other disciplines I supervise.
Administrative reviews of what type of evidence?
There's been firearms and footwear, but basically that's simply looking for the case specific, like case numbers and typos, stuff like that. So I'm not reviewing the technical work or the testing, just the reporting, to make sure it's correct.
Right, and that's part of the, isn't that part of the protocol for ensuring reliability of the evidence?
Correct.
Your personal work was the latent prints. Did you review reports of any of your employees for any other evidence collected in this case?
Like in the one we were just talking about, I may have done the technical review of Martin's work on the processing of those two.
To what?
The magazines that he processed for the prints. I may have done the technical review.
But not for others, not for blood or DNA?
No.
That's a different section, a different supervisor?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And do you know which weapon there, which pistol was used for the shooting itself matches up with the cartridge?
I think I've heard it was the Springfield, but I don't know. I don't know that for a fact.
So as far as the work that you did, as far as latent prints, is it true then that taking the known print from Bradley Renfro, that his prints didn't match up with any of the evidence that you tested?
Well, his prints were identified on one item that I'm aware of.
Oh, the cookie jar?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but not on the weapons?
Not on the weapons, no, sir.
And not any latent prints around the trailer where David was was pistol whipped or along the walls or doors?
Not that I'm aware of, sir, no.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any redirect, Mr. Johnson?
Just the cookie jar, that was what, a jar with marijuana in it?
I believe that was the description as it was submitted, sir.
And do you have any knowledge of where that was recovered from or not?
Not personally. I think it was recovered from the trailer.
Okay. And there were a number of his fingerprints on that jar with marijuana, right?
I could check. I believe it was 5 or 6 of them.
All right, thank you.
Okay, at this point in time, do we need to keep him under subpoena or is he released? Stipulated.
I have no objection to release.
I'm fine with him heading back to Anchorage.
Okay, sir, you can be released.
Can you please send Mr. Jorgensen in here? Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in the case now before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. And for the record, would you please state your full name and spell first and last?
Dustin Jorgensen, DUSTIN JORGENSEN.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you tell the jurors how you are currently employed?
I'm currently employed with Providence St. Joseph Health, and then basically the Northwest region of the U.S. As a cybersecurity engineer.
And how long have you had that job?
About 5 months.
And what do you do in that job?
I respond to and remediate cybersecurity incidents that occur on the network.
And what did you do before working for the hospital?
I was an Alaska State Trooper for about 12 and a half years.
What were your duties as a state trooper?
For the last 8 years as a state trooper, I was an investigator with the Alaska Bureau of Investigation Technical Crimes Unit, based out of Anchorage.
And all those years were at the Technical Crimes Unit?
8 of those, yes.
Can you describe for the jury what the Technical Crimes Unit does?
They do a number of things. Basically, they investigate and assist with the investigations of crimes involving technology or the internet. They also have a secondary duty of conducting computer and mobile device or cell phone forensic examinations.
And during those years, did you find that examination of cell phones was becoming increasingly prominent in criminal investigations?
Absolutely.
Was it, and the reasons for that?
Because almost everybody has a phone. There are many different types, models, operating systems on phones, and a phone is really just a computer that you can put in your pocket.
And the Technical Crimes Unit, so when you say examining phones, how would that usually occur?
Usually when a phone is seized as part of an investigation, it's brought back to our lab. as evidence. We take photos of the phone. Usually we remove it from the network. Usually is one of the first things we do. That helps to ensure that none of the data on the phone is altered remotely. We photograph the phone. It's removed from the network, photographed, and then we examine it based on the type of the phone, the software that we have available to do that.
And do you have any kind of special devices or programs to examine phones?
We have a couple, but then again, because there are so many different types of phones and models and types of software out there, as far as operating systems, not every phone is going to be supported by every product that we have for forensics. So sometimes we have to do manual examinations where we just basically take pictures of the screen of the phone. Other times we can use some of the tools and software we have, like Celebrite or something like that.
And how does it work with the password protected devices?
It depends, depending on the age of the phone, and again, in the make and the model, we have the capability to bypass some passcodes with newer phones and the stronger encryption algorithms that are used to protect the data on those phones. A lot of the times, we just can't examine them if they're password protected.
And you're familiar with search warrants issued by the Corps, is
I
that
am.
correct? And usually these examinations are conducted after a search warrant is obtained for the item.
Correct.
So the types of devices that you have examined, cell phones obviously, right?
Yep.
Computers?
Yes.
Including laptop computers?
Yes.
Tablets like iPads and such?
Yes.
What else, am I missing anything else? Or is that it?
Desktop computers, laptop computers. A mobile device kind of encompasses iPads, tablets, Galaxy tablets, iPhones, Android handhelds, that kind of stuff.
And when you worked at the Technical Crimes Unit, did you do some of the mapping, as far as cell phones interacting with towers?
Yes.
And to determine the locations of cell phones at certain times? Were you proficient in that
I was,
technology
yes.
also?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, before you got into the Technical Crimes Unit, were you just an ABI investigator before that
I was a patrol state trooper out in Bethel before that.
in Bethel?
Yes.
What the skills that you needed to work in the Technical Crimes Unit, how did you obtain those skills?
Mainly just through personal experience and hobbies. In the earlier years that I had in the Technical Crimes Unit, I finished a bachelor's degree in information technology with a focus in computer forensics. So I kind of just built my skills up from there.
All right. And then it was a matter of practice?
Yes.
And, I mean, how many devices do you figure you examined during the course of your stint with the Technical Crimes Unit?
Hundreds.
Hundreds. 2016, you worked in the investigation into the disappearance and murder of David Grunwald.
Yes, I
correct?
did.
In which way did you help with the investigation?
In the initial stages of the investigation, I assisted with the examination of a couple of mobile devices. My primary focus in the investigation was applying for and obtaining search warrants for social media records and accounts.
All right, let's talk a little bit about that. So we will be, during your testimony, we'll be talking about what you found on certain devices, but also being part of the Technical Crimes Unit, were you familiar how to obtain records from social media, what do you call them, websites or
Websites or
providers?
applications, yeah,
Okay.
providers, yeah.
And what type of agents, what type of companies are you talking about here? Facebook, obviously, right?
Yeah, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, there's a bunch out there. Really primary, those three, the top three that Snapchat and that kind of stuff.
Now, if you're interested in getting somebody's records from Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram and you have a warrant allowing you to do so, how do you make sure that you get those quickly so that things aren't erased on them?
Usually, when in investigation, when we become aware that a Facebook or a Snap or a social media account may be important to the case or may have potential evidence on it, the first thing we'll do is we'll submit a preservation request to that provider. We don't need a search warrant to do that. We just send them a letter or just a request, and they'll set aside that information for us. We can't obtain it without the search warrant, but they'll at least preserve that data for us for if we do come back in the future with a search warrant.
Now, those companies, are their headquarters in Alaska, or are they out of state?
They're all out of state.
And when you work with the Technical Crimes Unit, did you become very familiar of how to interface with those companies on these kind of things?
Yes, I did.
All right. And generally, all the companies we mentioned, are they pretty cooperative with law enforcement if they know you're doing a criminal investigation?
Generally, yes, they are.
Now, do they require like proof that you have a search warrant and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let me. I put our exhibit up there. Can you see the number? Remind me of the calendar, the November and December of 2016 calendar.
Yes.
All right. Because I think we'll be talking about that time period, and in case you need to refresh your recollection. And the way we're going to do this is I'm going to we're going to do some PowerPoints, and I'm going to get the computer going again here, hopefully. Okay, let's start out with state's proposed exhibit number 282. I suppose I should ask Mr. Provost whether he has any objection to these photographs we just seen.
Which numbers are they? What's the series?
Well, the PowerPoint is 282, and then the way we have it is we have some other photos marked individually, and the reasoning behind that, and they're contained in the PowerPoint, the reasoning behind having them as separate exhibits is then if we refer to them, we don't have to read through the
So we are
PowerPoints.
talking about 276 to 284.
Well, the first set is the PowerPoint is 282, the photos are 44. In the order they appear in the PowerPoint, 124, they bounce around, 178, 29, 183, and 186.
So, have you looked at those photos, sir?
Yeah, can we approach?
You can.
right, do you recognize this PowerPoint?
Yes, I do.
And did you put together, or did you help put together the PowerPoint?
I did, yes.
You did, okay. So I'm gonna go, obviously, the first screen just tells you what this, these are materials you retrieved from Eric Almenegger's tablet, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So, looking at the first slide there, first substantive slide that is of the PowerPoint, what can you tell us about that?
That appears to be just the home screen of the tablet.
Okay. And I don't know, you don't have any particular knowledge about gangs or gang colors or gang gestures, do you? Or do you?
Only minimal that I obtained from working in law enforcement.
So you don't read much into this photograph? I can cover it with other people, but you don't have any particular knowledge about what that person is doing with their hands or the colors or anything like that?
I am familiar with the color of that bandana in relation to the shapes they're making with their hands.
Like the Crip
Yes.
gang?
Yes.
And what do we have here?
Perhaps, Mr. Kalichuk, you can ask about dates. If you can
I
establish
could.
dates or.
First of all, I'll describe the slide. This is page 3 of the PowerPoint. This was on Almenegger's tablet also?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And are you familiar, during the course of investigation, did you become familiar with any of the players in this case, the participants?
Yes, only by name, and then I never personally met any of the individuals involved, but I did become familiar with them by name and photographs.
So the person, like if you look at the bottom, is that Eric Almenegger?
Yes, it is.
Middle, Bradley Renfro?
Yes.
And top, David Evans?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we know all this is from you recovered from Almenegger's tablet. Do you have any information when you were doing this search as to when these items, these photographs were loaded onto the tablet, or when they were modified? Any such information?
Usually on a device, a digital photo in particular that's stored. There's something embedded in that photo called metadata, and that metadata is going to have sometimes have some information on the date, possibly that the photo was taken, or also the date that the photo was put on or modified on that device.
So when the little writing there, I know when it says name, it says Snapchat. So was that a Snapchat photograph?
I believe so.
And then it says there's other information modified 10/23/2016. What does modified mean? Does it mean that somebody had that writing, or somebody shared it? What is the?
It can mean many things. All I can say is that something happened to that photo on that date. It could be that it was put on the device that date. It could be that some software on the phone moved it or copied it or something like that.
Okay. All right. Turning your attention to the next one, this is slide 4 of 9 in the PowerPoint. Was this also on the tablet?
Yes, it was.
And is this a photo of the same people as in the previous photograph?
It is.
All right. Eric Almenegger on the bottom,
Yep.
Bradley Renfro in the middle,
Yes.
and David Evans on the top.
Correct.
And again, was this a Snapchat image?
Yes, it was.
And then what date do we have as far as the modified, when it was modified?
Looks like 10/23/2016.
Okay. And if it's easier for you just to take that mic out and stand in front of it. Yeah. Just pop that mic out because you'll need it. And we've been using the yardstick as the pointer in case you. So can you show the jury where the modified dates appear on these things if they do?
Right here, it says modified here, and then it's got a date and a time. The UTC -8 means it's just we're 8 hours behind Greenwich Mean Time or Universal Coordinated Time. So that would be Alaska time during daylight savings.
Now, the writing, obviously, when a photo is taken, the writing is not on the photograph, right? How are those writings? And the previous photo had some writings, but how are those writings?
Are you referring to the
Yeah.
I?
They. Or
That's, I mean, the name of the photo says Snapchat on it, but that's a particular feature of Snapchat is that you can embed writing onto the photo.
All right. And is Snapchat, is that something you sign up for? Is that an app or
It's an app on mobile phones.
is it free? Or
It is free.
okay.
All you need is an email address to sign up with it, I believe.
Now, does some Snapchat stuff disappear over time? Because I understood that might have been one of the like features of Snapchat, that the photos or images go away fairly quickly on Snapchat. Do you have any familiarity with that?
Yeah, it is. That is one of the I guess you could call it a selling point, even though Snapchat is free, is that you can exchange photos and videos with people, and they'll time out after a set amount of time, and they'll disappear off of the device.
Okay. But these obviously did, right?
Right.
For one reason or another, or is there a particular way to keep them longer?
There is a way in the device to keep them longer. If you can send Snapchats or snaps to people outside of a chat, you're just sharing photos, but there's also a chat function in Snapchat that you can use, and I believe in that chat function is used, sometimes the photos and the videos can remain on the device.
Let's go to slide 5 of 9. Can you tell us what that is?
This looks like a photo of an individual from the waist down with 2 firearms tucked into the waistband of their pants. There's some text on the picture that just says, "I feel it 'cause," and then 100 with a couple of lines under it, and then a little.
And again, this
picture.
was on Elmendinger's tablet, correct?
Correct.
And then for this one, does this also say Snapchat?
It does.
Okay, and then what's the modified date, if any, on that?
The modified date is here again, November 10th, 2016, at 3:51 p.m.
Okay. And again, there's a number of possibilities as to what that means.
Yes.
It could have been created on that day.
Could have been created on that day, or it could have been put on that device on that day.
And, I mean, can you tell, like, whose belly that is, or whose jeans those are?
No, I can't.
Or whose gun that is?
No.
And I presume, is it fair to say that you don't have an extreme amount of familiarity with the firearms recovered in this case?
I do not.
Okay. Let's go to slide 6 of 9 in this exhibit. What do you see here?
It looks like a very blurry picture of a handgun and a slice of pizza laying on some napkins with "The Life"
And
stamped on
again,
top of it.
on Elmendinger's tablet.
Yes.
And when was the modified date of that?
It is November 15th, 2016, 2:10 p.m.
From Snapchat?
Yes.
Slide 7 of 9 in this exhibit. You recognize this photograph?
Yeah, this is Eric Almendinger just holding up a sign of his hands with "Killas" printed on the photo.
And he has a bandana?
Yeah, appears to be a blue bandana.
And Snapchat?
It is a Snapchat photo.
And was there a modified date on there?
Yes, and that is October 21st, 2016 at 1:44 a.m.
Slide 8 of 9. Can you describe what's depicted there?
Yeah, this is a typical Snapchat photo. You can see the number 7 up there. That usually is counting down the time to when that photo is going to disappear. This is Eric Almendinger in the foreground. The blue bandana holding up the C. The text on here says, "Straight cooling with Majisi."
And then there's people in the background
Yes.
and some kind of emoji or something inserted in there, or some kind of
Yeah, I believe that's a user icon.
a user icon. Okay. And the modified date of this one?
It is October 26th, 2016 at 3:37 p.m.
Slide 9 of 9. What's depicted in this photograph?
There's two individuals here. Both are wearing blue bandanas. The one that's clearly visible here is Eric Almendinger. He's holding a tablet, making the C sign with his fingers, and you can see a trailer in the background. And David up there in the top left-hand corner
David
of the picture.
Evans. Is this a Snapchat image too?
Yes, it is.
And when was that modified?
October 26th, 2016 at 9:22 p.m.
Okay. And then, I move for the admission of the PowerPoint, which is 282, and then I'm gonna go back to slide number 2. And then, as I explained to the court, what we did, Your Honor, is we marked the individual photos as exhibits so that if either party's referring to them during the trial, we don't have to carry the PowerPoint packet around. So slide 2 is, we have it printed as states exhibit number 48. We'll move for its submission. Slide 3, we have printed and marked as exhibit number 40. We move for its submission. Slide 4, we have printed and marked as exhibit number 44. Move for its submission. Slide 5, we have marked and admitted as 124, though it's a fuzzy photo. Move for its submission. Slide 6, we have marked as exhibit 178, moved for its admission. Slide
What's
7.
in up, 178?
Yes, the last one was 178.
I don't have that on the list, do you? So it's not on the list?
We'll have to reinsert it back onto the list.
Okay.
It probably just got blocked up.
Give me an identification name for it.
The life photo,
The
It's
line.
exhibit number 29.
Oh, it's exhibit number 29, okay, not 178.
let me take a look here.
This one here, kill us.
Oh, that's the next.
No, that's the next one, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me take a quick look at my list. We're trying to be consistent, so now right now our exhibit list had a blank, but if Madam Clerk can put THALIFE in quotation marks photo, I think that'll identify that one for 170, on the 178 slot. Slide 7 of 9, we have printed and marked as exhibit number 29 for its submission. Slide 8, we have marked as exhibit 183, move for its submission. And slide 9, we have marked as exhibit number 186 and move for its submission.
Okay, so objection, just the one you raised, you wanna maintain
Well, yeah,
that?
standing objection. The court has, ruled on these, so, for the most part,
Okay, so the court will stand by its initial ruling with noting that the objection's in place. Okay, so they are already raised.
And then just so I can move on, I'll just consult with the court clerk instead of going in my exhibit and marking everything. I'll just catch up with the court quickly and complete my list. Give me a moment. The next one is going to be state's proposed exhibit number 276, that's a very short one. And do you recognize the first slide or cover slide?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
Just a slide, the title saying it's Dominic Johnson iPhone 5C exam.
And did you examine Dominic Johnson's iPhone 5C phone?
Yes, I did.
And did you also examine his other phone, or was that a different person that examined that
I attempted to examine another phone, but it was password protected, and I was unable to complete that exam.
at that time?
Yes,
Was that a 6?
it was.
Okay. And you couldn't break into it?
Right. Correct.
You had the court authorization to do so?
I did,
But
yes.
it was not possible to do so?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Let's go to number 2. And I'm gonna give Mr. Provost the ones for the next, while we're doing this, since this one only consists of 2. What do we see here?
It's just a photograph of the phone prior to the start of the exam. This is the home screen of the phone. You can see the icons there at the bottom. This is an iPhone 5C. You can see Eric Almendinger pictured there in the background, making the C sign with his hands, and then another individual in the foreground.
Is Dominic Johnson?
I believe so, yes.
And is this his home screen, or what is it?
Yeah, this would be the home screen as opposed to the lock screen. So this is what
And
they-
remind me, which one is first and which one, the lock screen is the?
The lock screen is what you see before you unlock the phone,
And
and
this
the
is
home
the-
screen is what you see when the phone's unlocked.
All right, and why is this PowerPoint only 2 exhibit, 2 slides? There was nothing else on his phone?
I don't recall.
Relevant? I mean, because you helped develop some of these PowerPoints,
Correct.
right? You didn't have anything else that was relevant
I
to
don't
the
believe
case?
so.
Okay, at the time you examined it. All right, and then, for the record, we have this photo that's on the slide, on the screen right now, which is slide 2 of the PowerPoint, marked independently as states proposed exhibit number 38. So I would move for the omission of 276, which is the PowerPoint printout, and 38, the photo, which is the second slide in the PowerPoint.
Okay, standing objection?
Yes.
Okay, vote, Dave.
Now I'm going to turn your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 281. Now tell us what this is, Almendinger and Renfro Excel. What is that?
So throughout this investigation, several search warrants were applied for and obtained for social media records for a lot of the individuals involved. Thousands of pages of social media records were obtained, containing different various chat messages from Facebook Messenger, Snapchat, and various other applications. Because there was a large amount of records and the difficulty of reading the individual records, I created an Excel spreadsheet that basically outlines the conversations in a much easier format to read. And this PowerPoint was created based off of that Excel spreadsheet.
All right, sorry, I was gonna do 279, but Mr. Provost still had it in his hands, that's why I grabbed the next one, which is this one. But, that's all right, now Mr. Provost has this one. So, let's have him take a look at that. Of course, all this was provided with discovery in the case a long time ago.
Thousands of pages, yeah.
Thousands and thousands of pages.
Not a soundbite.
Right. Okay. Turning your attention to the second page. Now, this covers the late November timeframe, is that correct?
It does. These are going to be Alaska times.
Okay. And what do we see here? Communications?
Communications. On the far right-hand side under social network profile, that is going to be the records that we obtained this information from. That's going to be whose records these messages are from. You can see Facebook Renfro and Facebook Almanac. That just denotes that that line of communication was obtained from that individual's records.
So you obtained the Facebook records for Bradley Renfro,
Correct.
and you also obtained the Facebook records for Eric Almanac, correct?
Correct.
And most of this page is from Renfro's records, is that right?
It is.
Okay. And does this page show communications between Bradley Renfro and Eric Almendinger in late November after the murder of David Grunwald, but before his body was located?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, the red versus black, what is that? Tell us the significance. Just one, Almendinger's red and Renfro's black? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to make it easier to differentiate between the two.
Thank you. And then when you have the from to, that means it's going from the person under the from column, that's who's sending the message
Correct.
to the other person?
Yes.
All right. So just going down the line, November 26th, just take us through it kind of quickly.
So on the 26th at 2:35 in the morning, Bradley Renfro sent Eric Almendinger a message that was deleted from Renfro's account. On the 26th at 2:35, at about the exact same time, from Almendinger's account, you can see the message that says, "You still got the beats though."
Now you got that from Almendinger's Facebook, but that's being sent from Renfro to Almendinger, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Go ahead.
And then on November 30th at that's 2:14 in the afternoon, Bradley Renfro sent Eric Almendinger a message that says, "Yo." On the 30th at 2:16 in the afternoon, another message from Renfro to Almendinger says, "Nika." On the 30th at 2:21, a message from Almendinger to Renfro that says, "Huh." On the 30th of November at 2:21, Renfro says to Almendinger, "WYD, what you doing, cuz?"
Cuz meaning like cousin?
I believe so, yeah.
All right.
On the 30th, November 30th, 2016, at 6:16 in the afternoon or evening, Renfro sends Almendinger a phone call through Facebook.
How does that work? Because I don't function on Facebook. How does the calling on Facebook?
Within the Facebook Messenger application, you have the way to do a video or voice call, and it records it. Obviously, the content of that conversation isn't obtained through the Facebook records, but they provide the duration of that call. The duration of that call is 44 seconds.
All right.
And then on the same day, November 30th at 6:40 in the evening, Renfro sent Almendinger a message. However, that was deleted from Renfro's records. And all of the rest of the messages from the 30th at 6:16 going through the 30th at 11:02 p.m. are deleted.
Okay.
And there are messages going back and forth between Renfro and Almendinger.
On the 30th, a number of messages going back and forth, but they were deleted, right?
Correct.
From Renfro's Facebook?
Correct.
All right. I would move for the admission of 281.
That I don't have an objection to.
Okay, so amended.
This is the one after these. Now I'm gonna find States Exhibit 279. Okay, state's proposed exhibit number 279. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
This is another PowerPoint presentation that was created based on the contents of the records obtained from Snapchat for Eric Almendinger's Snapchat account.
And is that from, is it Snapchat company, or what's the name of the company? Do you know?
Just Snapchat,
Snapchat.
as far as I can recall, yeah.
Okay. Slide number 2 of 5. What can you tell us about what's depicted here?
This appears to be just a Snapchat photo of an individual laying on his back, holding two handguns in his hands. There's text on top of the photo that says, "And when I go, lay me in a blue coffin."
Right. And do you know who that is or not?
I believe it's Doug Peterson.
And so this was on Almendinger's Snapchat, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Do you know what, when it says Mason 3 hours ago, do you know what that means or not?
I believe that was the device it was taken on, it was sent to someone else, and that was who it was from, I believe, and that's 3 hours ago. Whenever it appeared on that person's phone was when that screenshot was taken or when that capture was taken, it was 3 hours ago.
All right. And do you believe that, is that a crypt related, the blue coffin thing, is that something to do with the crypt?
I believe so.
Slide 3 of 5.
This is Eric Almendinger standing in front of a mirror, just taking a picture of himself with a blue bandana on, holding up the C sign with his hand.
And then I know some of these appear on various places, right? So slide 4 of 5 in this exhibit, what is that?
This is a picture of Eric Almendinger holding up his hand, making a sign with his hands. This says "Kill Us" on it.
And what is that?
This is a video that was obtained in the records from Snapchat. In the title of the video, it's fairly lengthy. In the name of it is Dominic Johnson's Snapchat account and Eric Almendinger's Snapchat account, indicating that it was sent to Eric Almendinger from Dominic Johnson.
And do you remember what's depicted in this video?
I do, yes.
And describe what's depicted in the video.
There's a couple of individuals pictured inside of a small room. Eric Almendinger is one of them. You can hear other voices in the video yelling at him that he'd peed his pants.
Okay.
Please approach.
And now, in your opinion, does this video show direct interaction between Eric Almendinger and defendant Bradley Renfro?
Yes, it does.
I would move for the admission of the PowerPoint and the video.
Video exhibit number, Mr. Kelly?
197. That's gonna be the independent exhibit.
Your Honor, I don't have a legal grounds to object to this video.
So it'll be 197.
Thank you.
And the PowerPoint, which is.
Before I do that, I'll also move to admit exhibit 41, which is the printed out picture of Devin Peterson with the one slide we saw.
No need to stand in objection.
Okay, and exhibit number 36 is the independent exhibit of the third slide in the PowerPoint. Eric Almendinger.
Get admitted with the. So why don't, you gonna play the video at this point?
I will attempt to do that.
And we should probably give the jury their afternoon break here shortly.
Is that piss, Eric? Eric, is that piss? Stop playing. Fucking A.
Right. So do you recognize the people in that video?
Yes, I do.
Right. And the person, so this is at the end of the video, obviously, that we're locked in on now, but who is this person that's laying on the upholstery there?
That is Eric Almendinger.
Okay. And the person that was carrying Eric Almendinger around, was that Bradley Renfro?
Yes, it was.
Now, was there, do you remember if there was a date and time associated with that video or not?
I do not recall if there was.
And I don't remember, is there anything in the PowerPoint that might have had that information or not?
If it was associated with a message, there should have been if there was a reference to this video. I don't recall. off
Yeah,
the top of my
let me
head.
grab that exhibit, just, because I don't remember what the writing was, the little writing on there.
What exhibit number?
I'm just grabbing the PowerPoint, and it doesn't appear to have the date or anything. I'm just gonna have the witness verify that.
So my only objection is going to be that there be no speculation if this witness is sure of a fact that he can say so.
Well, obviously, I'm not gonna ask him to guess what
But
date
we
it
had
was.
a few answers.
I'll note the objection for the record, that's sustained.
Just the PowerPoint, obviously, the video was designated just with the cone, which is the player. Is there anything in there that indicates a date or not?
No, not clearly.
And do you remember when you did the analysis, whether there's any kind of date associated with this?
I do not recall if there was a date associated with this or not.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and take a break right now.
And going to the second, whoops. There we go. Yeah, it's not cooperating. Try the button. There we go. All right, going to the second page of this PowerPoint, can you tell us what's depicted on there?
So these are messages from Facebook. This is part of that Excel sheet that was created. These would be coming from Bradley Renfro's Facebook records. It's just showing that there were communications between Dominic Johnson and Bradley Renfro between November 29th, 2016 at 1:12 in the afternoon to November 29, 2016, 1:57 in the afternoon. And all of the messages were deleted, and there was one phone call on November 29, 2016 at 1:39. This is a phone call through Facebook from Bradley Renfro to Dominic Johnson that lasted for 311 seconds.
And this information was obtained from Bradley Renfro's Facebook account.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Move for the admission of 277.
No objection.
So admitted.
Well, no objections to that one,
And just so we're clear, officer, to explain to the jury, when you talk about Facebook, you're talking about Facebook Messenger, right? Which is a subset of Facebook.
Yes, Judge.
And that's not on Facebook, not everybody can see that. This is a private conversation, right?
Yes, Your Honor. This is a communication usually through the Facebook Messenger app. I believe through the Facebook web page. You can do messaging through the actual web interface as well.
All right, and it doesn't get broadcast to everybody.
It is not, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
All right, thank you. Now I'm going to ask you some questions at your desk there. Witness stand. Turning your attention to stage proposed exhibit number 278, can you take a look at that, please?
These are messages from Facebook, from the Facebook accounts of Devin Peterson, and Dominic Johnson. Showing communications between Dominic Johnson, Garrett Canada, and Devin Peterson.
Okay. And can you tell me how many pages this exhibit is? Can you just count out including the cover sheet, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pages.
And did you get this from Dominic Johnson's Facebook records?
These are from.
I'm sorry, whose Facebook records did you get those from?
From Dominic Johnson's and Devin Peterson's Facebook records.
Okay. And there, on the pages, we have the content for the communications.
Yes.
Are there any deleted communications like some of the previous exhibits that we discussed, or do all of these, this exhibit, does it all have content-filled information, messages?
This contains all content messages.
And this particular exhibit, it does show that Johnson was communicating with Peterson
Yes,
and vice versa.
it does.
And it shows Johnson was communicating with Canada
Yes,
and vice versa?
it does.
Okay. Then turning your attention to state's proposed exhibit number 280, can you tell us what that is?
These are additional communications via Facebook. Let me check. Yeah, these are all Facebook communications between Dominic Johnson and Eric Almenier from either Eric Almenier's Facebook account or Dominic Johnson's Facebook account.
All right, so it's a mix, some are from Almenier, some are from Johnson's.
Correct.
Are they in chronological order in that exhibit?
They appear to be yes.
Okay. And the times on that, is that Alaska time?
It is.
Okay. And give me a time frame. When is the first day of the communications, and when is the last day of the communications on that exhibit?
First day of the communications is November 13th, 2016 at 5:45 p.m. The last communication in here is November 28th, 2016 at 2:53 p.m.
All right. And are there calls as well as messages on there?
There are.
Are there any deleted messages in that exhibit? If you can just thumb through it real quick and tell us, are there any deleted ones, or is this just strictly messages or phone calls?
There are deleted messages in here. And some phone calls that have a 0-second duration.
And obviously for the phone calls, there is no content summarized to the phone call. right?
Correct.
Because the records didn't have that?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Now, as opposed to 280, can you take a look at state's proposed exhibit number 275 and tell us what it is?
This is a print off of the actual records received from Facebook. On the front page here, it's got a friends list, and each person on Facebook has their name. For example, Dominic Johnson's name is on here, and then a long series of numbers. That not long series of numbers is a number that is a unique identifier, numeric unique identifier for an individual's Facebook account.
And on exhibit number 275, that first page are Eric Almenier's friends?
It appears to be yes.
Okay. And then what's the rest of the exhibit consist of?
Facebook communications between Dominic Johnson and Eric Almenier.
All right. Therefore, is this also from Facebook, right?
It is.
So is there gonna be a little bit of overlap between 280 and 275, in that 280 and 275 likely contain some of the same communications? And you told us that in 280, it went from November 13th through November 28th. What days does state's exhibit number 275 cover?
This covers from November 12th, 2016. Let me correct that. This is in UTC time. So this would be November 11th, 2016 to November 13th, 2016.
And this exhibit, the last one, 275, that's UTC.
It is.
So that's 8 hours.
This investigation overlapped daylight savings time.
Okay.
So in some instances, it might be 8 hours ahead of what actual time is. In others, it might be 9 hours ahead, depending on those daylight savings.
Okay. But this other exhibit, that's 280 is Alaska
It
time.
is.
So if okay. All right. You know what, Nate, can you just do that here so for the future, do you have a pen on you or not?
I do not.
Can you just write down, you do it, though?
I don't.
Oh, let me get you one. Can you just write down, on 280, whether it's Alaska time or UTC? Okay, and how about on 278, the one, the communications among Johnson, Canada, and Peterson? Can you write down whether that's Alaska time? And what does UTC stand for again?
It's Universal Coordinated Time. The abbreviation is UTC, but it's Universal Coordinated Time is the actual.
Okay. So for the Johnson, Canada, Peterson, was that Alaska time?
It was.
Okay. And then for the last one, 275 that I showed you, can you just write on the front page whether that's UTC time or Alaska time?
Again, and then in this one, it actually says UTC next to the date time stamps in the actual conversations.
Thank you. All right, those are the questions I had for Mr. Jorgensen.
Afternoon. So, establishing, a couple questions about the foundation, establishing who and when somebody, when the original, whether it's a selfie or a snap or a photograph that you put on Facebook, versus identifying the time and date an original photograph was taken versus picking up photos in other friends' accounts or in other devices that were previously shared. And then having a date and time that that particular device received the photo. Are you able to say with certainty when these photos shown during your testimony, not the text, but not this last few exhibits, but the photos themselves, are you able to say with certainty who took it, when they took it, what date and what time, the original photo?
Yeah, I cannot say that. No.
So, for example, if you use Facebook a lot, there's lots of groups you could join. Let's say you're an avid hiker, talk about Alaskans, and so you join the Alaska hiking group. And those members, you'll see on your news feed photos from their hikes. And you may want to have an album of your saved photos that are just photos, beautiful scenery photos, different times, like this time of the year, all colors and all that, in your folder of Alaska landscapes. These are from people you've never met or never known, right? These photos.
Yeah, in this
But that's,
case.
yeah, in that hypothetical.
That's correct, yeah.
In the hypothetical.
Yeah, in the hypothetical
Yes, yeah.
of the hikers. So the same would be true for the photos that that were shown during your testimony. Some of them of co-defendants in this case, Allmendinger and David Evans and Dominic Johnson.
Correct.
Are you able to tell with certainty from the records you got from Facebook whether or not the photos that are being shown in evidence, are you able to positively identify when or where and what time the original photos were taken?
No.
And I think as you're aware, you're a witness to lay a foundation as the technician who assumed custody of these phones, right, from your colleagues in the field.
Correct.
Applied for search warrants to access them.
Yes.
Use some of your own tools in the lab to get into the phones and extract data.
Correct.
And then also get search warrants for, and identify in those phones the social media outfits they have accounts with, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, right?
Phones weren't particularly used to identify those Facebook and Snapchat profiles.
Were you able, when well, let me back up. So you also apply for search warrants
Yes.
to send to Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat
Correct.
for them to give up everything that they have within a limited time period.
That's right.
So a person who is using, has a Facebook account doesn't necessarily need to use their own phone.
Correct.
As long as they have access to any computer.
That's right.
And regarding messaging, how is it that, these are not photos of course, how is it that Facebook comes back with actual, like just like AT&T in a text account, you know, where you're connected to data, the internet, you can get what everybody texts to each other out of the phone carrier, right? Generally.
Text messages usually cannot obtain from carriers, but Facebook you can because they cache those messages.
So when you access, say you get into AT&T's portal with a search warrant, you're saying you're not going to see, you're going to see dates and times of texts and to who and from.
That's correct.
But you're saying you never see what the actual message is?
In my experience as an investigator, I have never seen text message content from AT&T.
Or other data carriers?
Not to my recollection, no.
Okay. So, but you see it in Facebook?
Yes.
All right. And for example, in this exhibit up here, deleted this period of time on the 29th of November, right? During a period of approximately less than an hour, there's messaging going back between Dominic Johnson and Bradley Renfro, right?
Yes.
Right. Did any of the investigators provide a laptop, cell phone, computer, other type, I don't know how many other types of electronics now access Facebook anymore, but were any of those types of electronics seized and provided to you that was in possession of Bradley Renfro?
Not to my knowledge.
So for his name to show up here in his Facebook account, there had to have been access to his account from some other device, right?
Correct. Yes.
And you don't know if it was Bradley Renfro or somebody else that was actually doing the messaging.
No, I cannot put anybody behind the phone
It's
or the
just that
keyboard
it's
to
it's
assign
his
some
Facebook
messages.
account.
Right.
Now, I know from the discovery there were many, many thousands of pages. And law enforcement, you folks, distilled all of that data down to pretty much a small amount that we see in discovery, right? How do you go about doing that? How do you decide what is relevant and what's not?
The entirety of the records that are obtained from Facebook and or Snapchat, those, whether they contain relevant information or not, go into evidence. We do go through those records and we determine, for me, it was based off of my conversations with the primary investigators in this case, what appeared to be relevant, based on the known individuals involved. And based off of that, those conversations, we created that spreadsheet or the PowerPoints.
And so you do it manually?
Correct, yes.
Is there a search function where you, for example, could type in Dominic Johnson in a packet of records from one of the sources and have Dominic Johnson's name show up everywhere in the records?
You could do that, yes.
Did you do that?
I did.
Okay. And you used your best judgment with the information you had to decide what you would pull from what was relevant to the state's case?
Yes.
So you're the gatekeeper, basically, of what we have.
I wouldn't say that. No, I was an investigator assisting with the investigation. Everybody involved in the investigation had access to these records.
Do you know if
I
any,
created the spreadsheet.
do you know if any of the investigators actually went through all of that data and came up with the same list of
I'm not sure if they did or not.
well, thank you, that's all.
Just a few. On this Facebook Messenger, though, don't you have to log into the account to send messages from the account?
You would have to log into a Facebook account to do that, yes.
Okay, so like the question that Mr. Provost said, well, you can't tell who actually Facebook messaged from Renfro's account, but you do have to go through certain steps to gain access into somebody's account to be able to message from that account, right?
Yes.
And is that like a password, like similar to, is it a code? Educate me about Facebook. To send a message through Facebook, you get in with your code or a password, or what's the story on that?
So Facebook Messenger is tied to Facebook. Facebook Messenger is an application separate from the Facebook application on the most popular mobile devices, Androids and iPhones, and iPad or the Apple operating system. They have separate applications for Facebook and Facebook Messenger. To use Facebook Messenger, you log in with the same credentials that you would use to log in to Facebook on the internet, on the web, in a web application such as Firefox or Chrome. You would use those same credentials to log in to the Facebook application on your mobile device or your iPhone or your Android. And then you would also use those same credentials to log into Facebook Messenger, which is a separate application on your phones as well.
And the question about the search warrants, now, in this particular case, you talked about a number of different places that you went to search for this information. Is it fair to say that you're not the only one doing search warrants, there are other investigators doing search warrants for either devices or records, right?
Yes.
I mean, everybody, as far as investigators, everybody should be schooled up on how to do search warrants, is able to do that,
Yes.
correct? And as far as all this data, the question about, you're the one picking, the data was available to the head investigator, correct?
It was.
Prosecutors?
Yes,
Provided as discovery to the defense attorneys?
it was.
Okay, thank you.
Any follow?
Regarding the first line of redirect. So, thinking of hypotheticals in real life. Let's say, like Facebook accounts in particular. Let's say, you're maybe, some people are on vacation or down at the beach. And one of these 2 or 3 folks, say it's a family, you know, it's a couple of teenagers and their parents. And mostly everybody left their phones in the room, but one brings a phone and pulls it out, and they're checking their Facebook account. If you don't close that app, you could have somebody that doesn't have a phone. Hey, you know, can I see what you're Facebooking, or can I send, you know, it could be a mutual friend or a mutual family member, can I send a message, you know, when you're done? So the phone gets passed around. Teens that, you know, some parents don't let their teens have smartphones, and some do. Those with the dumb phones are badgering their friends all the time to use their smartphones at school. So the fact that this is Bradley Renfro's account, for example, there's still really no way of knowing whether it is actually Bradley Renfro himself or somebody else that is on his account and communicating with Dominic Johnson.
That's mostly right. Yeah, if you had a phone that was unlocked, logged into, and someone else.
Yeah,
But
so that was the last follow-up, is that if the app is open and the phone is unlocked, or it has a minute or 2 minutes pause and somebody else picks it up, then somebody else could be, that is present there wanting to share something with Dominic Johnson.
It's certainly possible. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. You can step down now, and we'll let you know if you need anything. Okay? For now, you can go. Okay, folks of the jury, we are running about 10 minutes late, but we're off record for the day. We will see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and go with the same